So, friends, I want to welcome you all, and hi, Jim, and thank you for being here. Um, I also feel like I want to acknowledge the heaviness of this time. In the first 10 days of 2026, our country has invaded Venezuela, a sovereign country, kidnapped its president and wife, killed somewhere between 70 to 100 Venezuelans and Cubans in the process, and now claims ownership of the country's oil. Then, just on Wednesday, an ICE agent murdered Renee Good in Minneapolis. And we have Matthias here with us, who was at the gathering to keep the school students safe, and I showed up there also in Minneapolis. And so Renee and Matthias are standing with their neighbors. They have whistles, and the agents have guns. So as I hold this and God's creation, human and natural, being under assault, I also see glimmers of hope. And one of the places I find those glimmers is here with you all. There is joy in Presbyterians for Earth Care, as well as glimmers of hope. I can think of no others I would rather spend 90 minutes with. So, welcome. Thank you, each of you, for the good, faithful, and important work that you do. We are grateful. And now Sam Hamilton Poor is going to open us with a prayer.
Um, Hello, everyone. I want to give a nod to the late Dr. Holmes Rawston, because I've stolen some of his language and put it in this prayer. So let us pray. Spirit of the living God, present with us now, in Christ we pray, please put us in our place as one more primate among hundreds, one more vertebrate among tens of thousands, one more species among many millions, humans within the community of your creation. Put us in our place as disciples of Jesus, near to the world's wounds, seeking new ways to love and care for our neighbor in a time of climate change, struggling as a church to respond to the demands of justice in an atmosphere of violence and hate and inequality, trying to speak the truth of the word in a culture of lies. Put us in our place, which is to say, hold us in your grace and guide us as a community, a movement, a church, to seek justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Sam. And so now I'm going to offer thanks for the work of the 2025 Steering Committee. And I want to thank them because they handle the lion's share of PEC's workload. Jane Laping has served so ably and thoughtfully as our vice moderator. Joe Randolph, our treasurer. Mark Aiken, who oversees our program committee and the Mid-Atlantic region. Shannon Vance Campo, the Northeast regional rep. Sam Hamilton Poor, the South Atlantic regional rep. Matthias Peterson Brandt, the North Central region. Consuelo Walker, Middle America. Matthew Davis, who is on his way, the Western region. And then our at-large members, Derek Weston, who provides liaising with Creation Justice Ministries, Eileen Best, who co-chaired our awards committee, and Sarah Mayer. I am so grateful for these faithful, caring individuals, and especially for Mindy Heidenfelder, our coordinator, without whom 95% of what we do would not be possible. She handles her job with patience, insight, and a lot of good ideas. I am grateful. I think the things that we do well are advocacy and education. And in 2026, we will continue to promote an activism component to our webinars, sending folks away with an actionable task so that we may learn and respond, working as Christ's hands and feet, heart and mind in the world. And I also think that Fred Milligan does an amazing job chairing the advocacy committee. He's creative, he's thoughtful, he's patient, he's dogged. And so I'm grateful for all these people that work to support the work of PEC. Thanks, Mindy.
Is Jane with us? Okay. I need to pull up some bios. Okay. Um, Courtney, can you pull up the bios to read? Because I'm going to need to share my slides.
Sure.
Okay.
Um, the
Or actually,
William,
there's some summaries on here, so maybe you can just go
okay.
with that. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Do you want me to? So
Oh,
Jane's here. Should she read
Jane's
them?
here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jane, you're muted. Jane not only is our vice moderator, but the co-chair of our nominating committee. So we're grateful for her work on this.
There she
There
is.
you go.
Yay.
Yay. Jane, do you want to read the bios and introduce the candidates? Or do you want? So now we can't hear you again, Jane. Okay. Jane's going to come back on and interrupt me. But in the meantime, Mindy, if it's okay, I'm going to go ahead and read the bios for the folks that we're going to be voting on. We have the Reverend Sam Hamilton Poor. Jane, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me
Great.
still?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear us?
Yeah, now I can, yeah.
Okay. Can you introduce our nominees?
Oh yeah, I thought you said you were going to do it. Okay, so we elect steering committee members every year, and they serve 2-year terms. And so the terms are staggered, so we don't have to we don't have to replace the whole steering committee in the same year. So this year, the vice moderator position is open, and Sam Hamilton Poor, whom you just heard read uh, the opening, has gratefully agreed to be the new vice moderator. This is a big job, um, almost as big as moderator, but not quite. So Sam is the pastor of an Earth Care congregation in Vale, Alabama. He's the spiritual director and author of Earth Gospel, and he is currently PEC's South Atlantic Regional Rep, and this will be his second 2-year term. For the North Central Regional Representative, Matthias Peterson Brandt is taking a second term. He is pastor of Cherokee Park United Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. In 2021, his church was awarded PEC's Restoring Creation Award, and this will be his second 2-year term. For the Northeast Regional Rep, Shannon Vance Ocampo has been filling an unexpired term, and so she is now running for a 2-year term. She's the general presbyter of the Presbytery of New England. Previously, Shannon was co-chair of the Presbyterian Mission Agency Board. Shannon brings a wealth of experience to the steering committee, and we got a taste of that at our retreat in October. She has completed this unexpired term and is running for a 2-year term. For the Middle America Regional Representative is Andrew Black. Andrew is an ordained Presbyterian minister and was the PCUSA's stated clerk for overseeing the denomination's governance from 2011 to 2013. Andrew is the founder of Earth Keepers and he was the keynote speaker at our uh, national conference in October. And that's where we got the idea that he'd make a great regional representative. He is seeking election for his first 2-year term as the Middle America regional rep. So those are the candidates, and Mindy is going to put up the ballot, and I think she's giving you like 30 seconds, so you have to vote fast.
Some folks have voted already, so you don't need to vote twice.
Hmm.
So Mindy dropped the form in the chat, and you all can use that to vote. And Mindy, they can use it until we announce the winners, right?
Yeah, that's fine. We're just
Yeah,
not going to pause any longer than this for it.
right. Okay. Um, so Eileen is now going to talk to us about the Earth Care Awards for 2025.
Hello, everybody. One of the really fun things we get to do is to honor specific people and organizations for their outstanding work in Earth Care. We have 3 different categories, and we have winners to announce this evening, the people who will be awarded these awards. The first one is the William Gibson Eco Justice Award. And uh, William P. Brown is the winner for that. He is a professor at Columbia Theological Seminary and has written many books, was the speaker of our conference a couple years ago, and has just been very involved in all of this. Bill was not able to be with us tonight, but he prepared a statement, which Courtney is going to read.
So Bill said, I am deeply honored and grateful to receive the William Gibson Eco Justice Award for 2025. I do not deserve it, especially in light of those who have received the award in the past. But you have chosen a biblical scholar who loves creation and is eager to talk about it through the lens of wonder and awe. I fondly remember my times as keynote speaker at a couple of PEC conferences over the years, one at Highlands Retreat Center in Colorado and the other at Stony Point Center in New York. The reason he's not here is he's on a plane at this moment from Minneapolis with the appropriate carbon offsets to give the annual Rutland Lecture at Luther Seminary entitled Bewilded by Wonder, Just Creation in the Book of Job. In fact, you can register for the interactive seminar, and I'm going to put the link in the chat, and it's free. The one question that each of the recipients is going to answer is where they find joy in creation. And Bill says, as for what part of creation I find especially significant, that's easy. I was raised in the Southwest desert, just north of Tucson, Arizona. I have the fondest of memories of riding my bike on desert trails and dirt roads throughout the desert, encountering wild creatures, from coyotes to rattlers, and marveling at the variety of cacti and trees. Now, much of that surrounding desert has been developed, which saddens me, but there's still some stretches of desert remaining. The coyotes have adjusted well. Whenever I'm asked on a written form to identify my ethnicity, I am tempted to check other and write in desert rat. The desert has shaped my love for creation. Thank you again for this great honor. So that's Bill.
Okay, thank you, Courtney. And I don't agree with him in that he does not deserve this award. I think
Right.
his work in environmental justice issues has just been tremendous, and we are really honored to give this award to Bill. The next one that we do is called a Restoring Creation Award. This is given to a congregation or an organization for their outstanding work. And this award for this year goes to Arkansas Interfaith Power and Light. And Charmel Roussel is going to be accepting this award and telling us a little bit about the organization.
Oh, thanks so much. Just Arkansas Interfaith Power and Light's very honored to receive this award. So, when it comes to what inspires me, I love bodies of water, waterfalls and rivers and oceans and lakes, and also wildlife habitats. I think what inspires me to do this work is that I really believe that if we take care of the creation, the Earth's resources, then the Earth will take care of us. So that's kind of where Arkansas Interfaith Power and Light is coming from. So thank you so much for honoring Arkansas Interfaith Power and Light with this award.
Okay, thank you, Charmel. The Arkansas Interfaith Power and Light is particularly involved with gardening and has started community gardens all around the state, I think. So they've done wonderful work. Our next award, or the last one, is for Emerging Earth Care Leaders. And our committee had two applications, and we were so taken by both of them, we couldn't decide and decided to give this award to both of the young people who applied. So we're really happy. I think they're both here with us this evening. Hudson Davis is one of our award winners. He's an assistant science educator in Hot Springs, South Dakota, and works as a paleontologist and is just involved in earth care in quite a few ways. And Hudson, if you'd like to say a few words, please do.
Yeah, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for honoring me with this award. I feel really blessed. The question that was posed to all of us recipients of the award was, where do we find inspiration within creation? And for me, it was really hard to kind of narrow it down because I think it's all really awesome. But I find the most joy and wonder within animals, and specifically within the resilience and the adaptability of God's creatures. You know, as a paleontologist, I spend most of my time studying Earth's past and the animals that unfortunately are no longer with us. But all the animals living around today have had to endure so much throughout their evolutionary history just to be here. 5 mass extinctions in the middle of the 6th one. And no matter what, life always keeps finding a way. So I feel really inspired by that. I'm actually stuck in my car right now. I wasn't able to make it home in time because I got stuck in a herd of bison earlier today. And, 100 years ago, there were almost extinct and we almost lost them completely. But because of people banding together, we were able to save the bison, and they're doing a lot better now. And organizations like this make a difference. And I'm really happy to be associated with Presbyterians for Earth Care. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hudson. Very nice. And our second person who's being awarded the Emerging Earth Care Leader Award is Drew Hill, who is also with us. Drew is from Santa Fe, New Mexico, and is passionate about social progress, excuse me, protecting the environment and serving the public. And the list of the ways that he has done that is far too long to read to you, but it's really, he's very involved and very active, and we appreciate all of your work, Drew. And if you'd like to say something, please do.
Well, thank you, Eileen. I'm really honored to receive this award as well, and we'll answer the same question. I'm glad Hudson didn't take my answer because I know we both have a special connection to Ghost Ranch, and that's one of those places that I tend to feel really, really connected, and I've been really glad to be involved with Presbyterians for Earth Care, especially in the policy space, and I'm really honored to be receiving this award. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, and congratulations to all of our recipients, and we're very pleased that you could join us. Thank you.
So again, I'm grateful for the glimmers that come through with these folks. And just to clarify, each of these people was nominated for the award. They did not apply for it. They were nominated because we thought the people who nominated thought that they were so wonderful, which is true. So thank you for being here. And now I'm going to introduce Emma, who will talk to us about Canopy, which is our creation action network of Presbyterian young adults. Drew is also involved in Canopy. Emma's going to talk about Canopy. I'm going to talk about Emma. Emma is our amazing PEC young adult organizer who has developed and helped to craft Canopy into an organization of young adults who are active and engaged. She will tell you more about this, but let me tell you about her. Emma hails from the DC area, graduated from Princeton Seminary in May, and is certified ready to receive a call even as she completes her Master's of Social Work this coming spring. And she brings all those things, energy, intelligence, imagination, and love to the work that she does for PEC. And we are so grateful for her working with us. So, Emma?
Thank you so much, Courtney. I'm excited to share Canopy with y'all for those of you who may not have heard about this new space. So yes, Canopy sort of stands for the Creation Action Network of Presbyterian Young Adults. Our mission statement is over there on the right. I will not read the whole thing to you, but this is a group of young people, 18 to 35, Presbyterians and their friends, but we're not carding. This is a group that's come together to connect with one another, to educate and learn together, to share knowledge and best practices, and to take action with energy, intelligence, imagination, and love, our favorite things. So just a little nutshell recap of what we've been up to over in Canopy. So we formally launched in September of this year. We've had a few monthly meetings since then. At the moment, we're at about 43 members, which spans students, including seminarians, undergrads, other people in graduate programs and PhDs, ministry professionals, including pastors, church administrators, and denominational staff, and then young professionals in other fields as well. And we are coast to coast. We span all the continental time zones. We are coming together in a couple of different ways. So we are coming together monthly on Zoom to do community building, to do knowledge sharing, and to take coordinated action. We are coming together on social media, on Instagram. You can follow us at canopy_PEC. Anyone is welcome to find us over there. And then also on a WhatsApp community to kind of keep in touch with each other and share what we're all up to. And then we've also connected in a few different places in person at various conferences. So I got to participate in the PEC conference and the Jesus and Justice conference hosted by the denomination. And we had a representative, Mary Mabry, at the Montreat College conference doing recruitment and sharing about Canopy there. And we're looking forward to the new year. We have some exciting stuff coming up. We are going to maintain our monthly whole group meeting, and we're hoping to add a virtual community hour to workshop projects and share knowledge and just be in touch and communicate with one another. We're hoping to develop a more focused issue agenda for our advocacy and activism work. In particular, I think we're going to be targeting Indigenous and Native rights and land back and global conflict as it relates to environmental justice. We're also targeting maybe some in-person gatherings around GA and who knows, in my dream of dreams, an in-person retreat sometime in the upcoming year. So we're really excited about this work, and I speak for I think all 43 of us when I say we're really honored that PEC has made this effort to make this space for young adults to come together and connect and do this work. So thank you all, and stay tuned. As I say, feel free to follow us on Instagram.
Thanks so much, Emma. And this group is the brainchild of Fred, and he needs to be credited for visioning what could be and then letting it go and seeing what can happen. So I'm so grateful for his vision and follow through. And then I'm just going to talk briefly about a new initiative, the PEC Advisory Council. Um, the I'm the moderator of the council. Bill Simplotsky Jarman, Lynn Finelli, Drew Hill, Nettie Astudillo, and Jessica Maudlin are on the council. And we look a little more broadly at work that PEC could be doing or should be doing. We offer feedback on PEC programs and activity, both positive and constructive, suggesting areas, topics, or ideas for future action or advocacy. And we recommend climate and earth care resources, organizations, or people with whom PEC might consider engaging, collaborating with, or learning from. So it's just in its nascent stages, and it's been exciting to gather with these people who care deeply about creation and about the work of PEC. All right. I'm going to talk a little bit, give you a little bit of a financial update. Our treasurer is out of the country, and we have had some financial challenges in 2025 and a remarkably successful 2025 PEC Caring for Creation fundraiser. We set a goal of $15,000, and you can see there that we have exceeded our goal, which is amazing. We're so grateful for the participation of so many, and especially I am grateful for the efforts of the steering committee with fundraising follow-up phone calls. And the thing for me that was remarkable about the phone calls was that the conversations were so interesting, generative, and hopeful. And as many of you know, we had $6,000 in matching funds, and I have not seen this total, which is so the total was 15, and we exceeded it. You can see the average gift, reoccurring, and the number of donors. So we have been, we are grateful in our receipt. We also had a matching gift of $6,000, and my records show that of that $6,000, 3,175 was used for those who doubled their commitment from last year. And I also want you to note we have a new mailing address, P.O. Box 18 in Wake Forest, North Carolina.
I think this part is me. Okay. So we are asked every year to bring this back, so we've been doing it. Everybody enjoys it. We're going to go into breakout groups, and we're going to talk for about 15 to 20 minutes, maybe a little less. And when you get to your breakout group, if you could please mention these things. The question that we're asking you to discuss briefly is the biggest earth care struggle currently experienced by you or your congregation or your group, and how PEC can help.
To do that, I know that your thoughts and wishes will be communicated to PEC, and we can't fix some of the problems that are wrong in our country, but we can see what we can do about your concerns. So thank you.
So Courtney, I think now we ask Mark to introduce Fred.
Okay, Mark, would you introduce Fred?
I'll
And
be glad
we'll
to.
talk about advocacy.
I will be glad to. This is a great opportunity that we have at this point because we're going to be talking about things that are being prepared for the upcoming General Assembly. And I'm introducing Fred Milligan, who is a retired pastor and working in the New York City area, and has been very, very dutifully working as a co-chair of our advocacy team. He worked very hard at the last General Assembly to muster the troops and get the forces moving to almost succeed in our work to divest from fossil fuels. And this time we have a little bit of a different approach. We have two fossil fuel related um, overtures as well as one on regenerative agriculture. And Fred is here to introduce those. I'll also say for any of you who are interested in the advocacy committee, Fred would love to have you join in and be a part of it. Always looking for more people. So Fred, I'll hand it over to you. And you're on mute.
Script up there. I need to. Okay.
I hear you.
Yeah. Well, the potential work of the advocacy committee in this Anthropocene, Holocene, or whatever you want to call it, moment in history where humanity has made such an impact on all life on the planet. The work is so broad, potentially. It could extend to habitat destruction, deforestation, climate change, pollution, sea life, the overexploitation of resources, and numerous other matters. But our bandwidth of time and talent is always limited, right? And so we're forced to make choices regarding which of these matters we choose to address during any given point in time. We've got a great group of probably regular group of 15 to 20 who meet once a month and address matters in terms of our advocacy agenda. But when it comes to the assemblies, each 2 years, we've been trying to focus in on what overtures and what issues we will try to take there. As Mark mentioned, during the last assembly, we submitted 3 overtures. One had to do with wilderness protection, one with plastics pollution, and one with climate change mitigation through fossil fuel divestment. All 3 passed, right? The one on fossil fuel divestment, however, was pulled back onto the floor of the assembly after lunch that same day, after we had already gone off and begun our celebrations. And it ended up being reversed, and we ended up with a more muddled result. And I won't go into the details of what that muddling was all about, but this year we've chosen to focus on soil health, climate change again, and equipping the church to assist congregations and communities with a more just transition to a green energy future and repairing environmental harms. That being said, I want to express my heartfelt appreciation to those who contributed in any way, from providing feedback to assisting with editing, as well as the primary writers who will be introduced shortly, to walk us through the 3 overtures that we've developed over the past 4 to 5 months. Along the way, we've endeavored to consult as closely as possible with those servants of the church who work in various components of what we now call the Interim Unified Agency to resource the church for carrying out its mission. This list of online Zoom meetings includes representatives from a long list, and I've got a slide that lists those. If you can pull that up. Mission responsibility through investment, Advisory Committee on Social Witness Policy, Presbyterian Foundation, Board of Pensions, the budgeting people at the Interim Unified Agency, the Presbyterian Hunger Program, the Women and Gender, LGBTQIA plus racial equity, advocacy folks, Creation Action Network for Presbyterian Young Adults, Canopy, in partnership with us in developing these overtures, Office of Public Witness, at the UN in DC, the Center for the Repair of Historic Harms, and the general PEC membership have all been involved with consulting with us on these overtures. And so these overtures went through a lot of changes from the beginning through the end. Minnie, you can bring up that next slide. So I want to introduce the three people, or four people who, well, three people and myself who were the key writers on this process. Jim Turner, who worked on the overture on the importance of regenerative farming practices in caring for creation, led that process. Pam and Drew were really key in the changing course for a green future on the divestment of our denominational investments and Presbyterian investments in fossil fuels. And Pam helped me a great deal on working on the Green Future Endowment Fund that I will speak to in a few moments. So I'm going to just turn it over now to Jim to launch this introduction and presentation on the importance of regenerative farmative practices.
I am grateful that PEC members from various states helped write this overture. The new dietary guidelines this week give emphasis to the importance of nutrition, but the nutrition in food is affected by attributes of the soil that nurtured the green plants producing that food, and the guidelines do not even mention soil. Furthermore, worldwide deterioration of soil threatens the security of food supplies within a decade. Fortunately, modern science knows how farmers can regenerate soil, and there is some spreading awareness of that among farmers. But there are some upfront added costs for farmers who adopt practices that take better care of the soil. Recently, the U.S. Department of Agriculture announced a $900 million program to assist farmers in better soil management, but that is not big enough to meet the need. And there are also concerns about how that will be allocated to large farms versus family-sized farms. Our society's awareness of the need for better farming practices can influence how the USA allocates this fund and can support the judgment of farmers who act wisely. A 2022 policy statement of ACSWP urged Presbyterians to lead toward better public awareness of readiness for coordinating, uh, uh, for more awareness of regenerative farming. And this overture aims to elaborate upon that duty and express a readiness for coordination of supportive learning and activity. This can be accomplished through voluntary activity of Presbyterians, supported by existing resources of the PCA and its staff, with few added costs. This overture is motivated partly by a need to counter the greenwashing efforts of large corporations that may aim to keep selling tractor fuel, chemical fertilizers, and pesticides, as well as nowadays genetically modified fungi and bacteria to help farmers treat their soil. Some companies now even envision using cameras to spot an insect on a leaf and send a drone to spray a drop of insecticide on it. That would be thrifty with insecticides. That's not enough. But families on farms can gain better profits if they stick to regenerative practices such as those named in the overture. This can result in rural communities that are more populated by young people. The overture mentions managed grazing by animals because that produces revenues that help farmers to profit from regenerative practice. But this is an acceptance of grass-fed meat from grazing animals, but that stops far short of the dietary guidelines, implicit acceptance of meat from animals confined in feedlots. While some might want this overture to advocate abstinence from meat as a reduction of burden on farmland acres, to address that controversy would likely make this overture incapable of adoption and influence. Such advocacy can be considered for other occasions in the future as guided by the Holy Spirit. In general, this overture presents a positive view of how farm families will benefit from better practice and leaves it to individual Presbyterians whether or and how they will comment on economic and social problems that are involved in agriculture. I'm happy to take any questions later on.
Yes, we're going to do questions after we presented all of these overtures. So please hold on to your questions or put them in in the in the on the side, the chats on the side. So now Drew Hill will tell us. We'll open up with the Ask section of the Changing Course overture.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm focusing on the recommendations, the actual policy of the Changing Course for a Green Future, continuation of the long-standing effort to encourage the denomination to divest from fossil fuels. I want to focus what this recommendation actually does because it is very intentionally grounded in existing church policy. First of all, it does not introduce a new theology or new investment framework. It seeks to align our financial practices with commitments the church has already made repeatedly on creation care and climate justice. The overture also explicitly recognizes the progress already underway, commending both the Presbyterian Foundation and the Board of Pensions for reducing their exposure to fossil fuel companies. So it's not a rebuke of fiduciaries. It's really a recognition that the church is already moving in the right direction. Third and key, the overture operates fully within our fiduciary and divestment policies, affirms the church has already satisfied the requirements of the 1984 divestment strategy, which allows divestment from a class of firms as part of normal fund management and Christian witness. In other words, it applies our rules, not rewriting them. The divestment itself, it calls for is phased and prudent, calling for companies whose primary business, more than 50% of their profit is in fossil fuels, and setting a goal of completion by 2030 or as prudent management allows. So it respects fiduciary discretion, market realities, and risk return standards, and is really measured and responsible. Lastly, the recommendation does not abandon engagement. Rather, it directs MRTI and related advocacy bodies within the church to shift their leverage towards lenders, insurers, and public witness where engagement can be more effective at this stage. So divestment here is not a withdrawal, but really a strategic reorientation. And this recommendation also places PCUSA within a clear ecumenical consensus, including the World Council of Churches and other bodies that have already divested. And so it strengthens our public witness and makes clear this is faithful and a mainstream response, not an outlier position. In short, this is a careful, faithful, fiduciary aligned, and overdue confession to consistency with the policies our church has already repeatedly affirmed. I'll pass it to Pam to give a little more on the rationale.
Hard to follow, Drew. Thank you very much. I'm going to explain the rationale, and I'm going to begin with a summary of what's in the rationale, and then I'm going to give you a few specifics. So the summary, we're asking the church to change and to be a leader in the global transition to renewable energy and to move away from our financial investments in polluting production and use of fossil fuels, because this more faithfully tracks with the reality of climate science, the guidance and policy of previous General Assemblies, and fulfills our witness to God's justice, care, and hope for creation. More specifically, our denomination has long affirmed that caring for creation is central to our discipleship and public witness, and this includes the needs to teach and to practice that which will meet the Genesis mandate to be caretakers of the earth. The 226th General Assembly in 2024 recommitted the denomination to the urgent need to align our programs
with the global efforts to transition away from fossil fuels in a just, orderly, and equitable manner. And that's what we propose to do with this overture. This is critical because the science indicates that the world must make significant emission reductions by 2030 to avoid temperatures which will be catastrophic for all life. Further, the 226th General Assembly confessed our denomination's failure to take significant action to implement a Restoring Creation turnaround as called for in 1990. This overture seeks to bring the church's financial practices into alignment with the commitments we've already made. The denomination continues to maintain significant investments in fossil fuel companies. Our current engagement strategy has yielded limited improvement in corporate behavior related to the emissions from their operations and does not address the larger problem that the products of this industry are destabilizing the global climate. Thus, our existing investment posture remains out of step with the theological commitments and moral direction repeatedly expressed by past General Assemblies. Our investments are contributing to the very harms that we claim we are trying to heal. We are calling for this to change.
I should unmute myself. Okay. Moving on to the third overture, which was actually an outgrowth of the work on the first overture around divestment, where we began to, insert points related to a just transition. As people of faith, we recognize that it's not only important that we deal with the root causes of climate change and climate disasters, but that we do so in such a way that we leave no one behind, that we keep all the world, that we help those who are least able to afford to make the energy transition to green energy, that we help those who are the most impacted by climate disasters, that we help people with adaptation, that we help people with loss and damage, that we are more available as the church and present as the church to help people who have suffered at the hands of the fossil fuel industry and those who have harmed the environment. But we also must recognize that we are among the culprits to the extent that the history of our own investments in the fossil fuel industry have produced, profits for us, but in the process of producing profits for us, it has produced the products which have harmed the environment and harmed the world, and have harmed those who are in the least positions of culpability for producing these fuels and even using them, especially when it comes to the developing world. So we need to do a better job as the church at addressing this. As we did our consultation, one of the things that came up in the consultation with the Canopy group of young adults was how many people in that group are involved with this land back effort for indigenous people to have land restored to them. Others have been involved with the ways in which the history of racism in this country and historic harms have excluded African Americans and other minorities from owning and operating farmlands. So we wanted to incorporate into this overture a way to address some of those harms and some of those historic wrongs. Finally, as we begin to do research on the ways in which we already have existing policy precedent, we found that back in 2008, the General Assembly adopted in that overture among its recommendations, one recommendation that the Restoring Creation department of the church should establish a fund to help congregations make the green transition. This would be a fund that would help particularly small congregations and congregations in communities of color to be included in the transition in a just way. That fund was never established. Or if it did, it didn't last. We've not found any, the people at the who are currently involved in the environmental ministries of the church are not aware of any such fund. There are loan funds available through the denomination, but there is no a grant fund available. So what we're proposing in this overture is that a fund be established. And then in order to see that be actionable, implementable, we are offering the possibility of the creation of a planning team that would work, a design team that would work over the coming 2 years past the assembly and report back in 28 as to exactly how this fund will operate and be capitalized. And that is the way in which we seek to address this issue of a just transition, both for our churches, for the communities within the U.S., and potentially communities far-flung in those parts of the world where we now have withdrawn our commissioners, but are still seeking to be engaged with those communities. So now I think we need to hear from people if you have questions for question and answers. And I think Mark is going to do that. And then I'll come back and have a couple of words at the end.
Thank you, Fred. Anyone who has questions, I will help to keep the questions going. You can type a question in the chat. You can raise your virtual hand, and short of that, if you want to actually raise a hand and wave, I'll try and spot you. And so any questions anyone has about these three overtures? Jim.
I'll ask Fred how to deal with the advantages that the existing status quo policies have in the General Assembly procedure. Is there any hope for that?
Why don't we put that park in a parking lot and come back to that at the end, okay? Because that is related to some of the things I want to say after we get the questions on the overture content.
I guess I have a question.
Okay, we have two. So June and then George, I see. Go ahead, June.
For Jim, I wasn't really clear on exactly what this overture is calling for. Is it calling for us to support the Department of Agriculture's work, or just make us? Can you just one quickie? What are we doing with that?
What is envisioned is that, first of all, Presbyterians need to gain a higher level of awareness of what regenerative farming is and how transition to it is possible and why it's good. And thereafter, ways for Presbyterians to comment on it to their legislators and regulators can be addressed through workshops and webinars, perhaps, that the Hunger Program, I think, is capable of holding, and that could be held through PEC, I would think.
Okay, so it's education and a encouragement to advocacy.
Yes. Thank you.
Great. George Brooks, I saw your hand.
Yes, yes, sir. I just do have a brief question and a small request. Back in the day when I was a young scientist, I was the extension specialist, and I was an extension specialist with the University of Arizona. We were working on things that today you call, it was 40 years ago nearly, but today you call it regenerative, basically the same things. Nothing new under the sun, just new names. but I'm glad to see the regenerative effort, but it's primarily, it seems to be rural based. So sometime in the future, I would like to talk to someone about a fourth or overture looking at urban food supplies and urban agriculture and how the church can support that. That's it.
Thank you, George. That's definitely has come up already in the conversation I had with the Justice Committee here in New York City. And they actually offered a change for the version of the original draft of the overture. So we have now adopted that into our text for this overture as the most recent version does offer a bit more, maybe not as much as needs to happen, but in the future we can have that conversation further to see what we might do there.
Do we have other questions? Well, we're waiting to see if there are any on content, and Fred, this may be a part of your final. Do you have, if you could give us an update on what the current plan is for getting this introduced by presbyteries?
Yes, so that is kind of where we're going next here with these next steps. We want to appoint a joint PEC canopy implementation task force. And this group will continue to meet to track the schedule that these overtures have as they're working their way through congregations and presbyteries. We already have at least probably 4 or 5 presbyteries that have it on their docket for their next meeting. Some of those meetings don't happen until February. None of them are happening, as far as I know, in January. But those of you who are here today, I want to take any of these overtures to your presbytery, please do so, and the sooner the better, because getting these things on the docket requires a lot of lead time in some presbyteries more than others, and also educational background and so forth. We're going to be finding out exploring who's going to be a commissioner, because now this kind of relates to Jim's comment about the kind of the handicap that we operate with when we go to General Assembly as advocates. Since we are not part of the official structure of the denomination, we cannot access the names and contact information of the commissioners. Or maybe we can have the names, but we don't know what presbyteries they're from or what the contact information is or whatever. We're very limited in terms of the information we have about who's going to the General Assembly and what the contact information is. And so we'll be needing to find that out. So if any of you know people who are going to the assembly, please let me know. We will want to follow up with them, provide resources for them to help support our overtures, and we want to reach out to them. And we want to do more work around organizing activities in Milwaukee. If anyone is going to Milwaukee to the assembly and want to be involved in some activity there that could help raise awareness or educate people around these overtures, please let us know about that. So that's basically what this task force is going to be doing. If you're interested in being part of this task force, let me know and we'll follow up with you on that. Going back to Jim's comment earlier about the actual processes and procedures at the assembly, this is not really something we have a lot of say-so about, Jim. Unfortunately, this has to do with the way the assembly is structured, and those people who are employees of the assembly have much more voice and sway with the commissioners and with the processes as they happen. I think many times for good reasons, because they're the ones who are on the ground and doing the work day to day. Unfortunately, that does mitigate against the against change, right? Those people who are already doing things a certain way for certain reasons are not always so easily swayed and with arguments for why they need to do things differently. And so that makes it difficult for us to make our case at the assemblies with commissioners. And then those people who are, in charge of the processes and already employed by the assembly in various staff positions often end up having, the last say and a larger voice in that process. And there's not much we can do about that. That's just something we have to work around. And so that's why we're having this implementation task force and trying to see ways in which we can work around the existing processes.
Fred and everybody, thank you so much for your work on this, for this explanation. If anybody has any questions, you can be in touch with Jim or Fred or Mark about process, about specifics. This has involved a lot of work. So thank you for that. And now you're going to hold on to your seats as Mindy shows us so this is the Presbyterians for Earth Care 2026 Steering Committee that has been voted on and moved. Sam Hamilton Poor comes in as vice moderator. Shannon Vanzacampo and Matthias Peterson Brandt are renewed as regional reps. And Andrew Black has been elected as the Middle America regional representative. So thank you all for your votes. This is very exciting. This is going to be a great group. I'm really excited. And now I'm going to finish us up by sharing. Oh, yeah. Our final information. Looking ahead for 2026, we have Lenten resources available. We're going to do a Presbyterians for Earth Care Lenten devotional. It will appear in both English and Spanish. The sign up will go around soon, and you are encouraged to participate in that. The PCUSA also offers a Tread Lightly for Lent calendar, and Creation Justice Ministries has 52 ways to care for creation. And every month you can sign up and get creation care tips for that month. So that is exciting. And then I just wanted to say, we had a wonderful conference this summer. I love the faces, the smiling faces on each of these. I am so grateful for their work. There have been alliances that have come out of this group meeting. And so it's just a real great honor to serve Presbyterians for Earth Care and each of you. And Jane Laping is going to close us in prayer today. But before she does that, she is our outgoing vice moderator. And I wanted to take just a minute to thank her for her 25 years of service to Presbyterians for Earth Care and her lifetime commitment to caring for creation. And so Jane does this work quietly, thoughtfully, persistently, and with great faithfulness. So, Jane, just so you know, I'm not letting you go. I'll be in touch for things that we can work together on. But I did want to thank you for everything you've done for PEC. And I hope you'll continue to carry the PEC flag with you wherever you go.
And thank you, Courtney. And I'm not going to disappear. So I'll still be around. So for our closing tonight, I have selected a blessing from Sam Hamilton Poor's book, Earth Gospel. May the spirit of life move you from apathy to action, from observing to doing, from despair to hope. May the Spirit of life bless you with both the pain and joy of change, the change the world needs, the change for which you pray, the change you are becoming through Jesus Christ.